Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. A Heart of Ice and Ash. Episode 10. Chapter 105. Kai POV. I don't know what's going on with Winter lately. I know she's lost her memories, but it's something more than that. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Last night at that date she told me she felt sick, but this morning, she disappears for warm milk because she can't sleep. Who can't sleep when they are sick? It doesn't make sense. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid. Who knows? I meet Langdon. Training grounds. I mutter to him I need to work out some of my frustration. He looks taken aback but does as I ask. There's no sign of Damian and I figure that he's got to be sleeping. I wonder if they were up late last night. Then I stop and halt in my tracks, reaching out a hand to look at Langdon properly. There's a massive smile on my friend's face and there, on his neck, is a mark. They marked each other. Congratulations man, I say, patting him on the back. It was awesome news. Langdon, more than anyone, deserves to be happy with his second chance mate. Especially after what Candace put him through. Thanks, Langdon says quietly. We did it last night. I look directly at him. Are you happy then? His eyes sparkle. Very. We start to walk across the grounds, both of us lost in thought. Winter doesn't have my mark anymore, and while I would love to claim her again, I'm uncomfortable doing it while she still has amnesia. Storm, on the other hand, has no such qualms about it. She's our mate, she should bear our mark. Storm, we've been over this, we can't just do it without her consent. Why not? We did it the first time. Exactly why we can't just do that to her this time. We never should have done it without her consent originally. This time we need to be more respectful of Winter. I don't like the fact she doesn't have our mark anymore, Kai. I don't either, Storm, but we just have to be patient. She'll let us mark her again eventually. She'd better. She's ours, no one else's. Trust me, she knows that, Storm. Man, my wolf is more possessive of Winter than I am. He's very protective of her as well. I guess Damian is lucky that Storm hasn't torn him to shreds for what he did to Winter in the past, because my God, he wanted to. He really wanted to. If he hadn't have been Langdon's second chance mate, he would have been in serious trouble. We reach the training grounds. Jeff, the head warrior, gives us a wave and jogs over to us. I can see two warriors in the ring sparring, both of them not giving an inch, covered in sweat from head to toe. I wonder how long they have been out here for. Alpha Kai, Beta Langdon, Jeff says with a smile. It's nice to see you out here. Is there something you need? Oh yeah, there's something I need, all right. I need to vent some of my anger and frustration out by fighting. My whole body is tense and even Langdon looks like he could use a fight. I came out here to train, I say, and Jeff looks at me, completely taken aback. I'm a little indignant. It's not like I don't come out here, it's just that Langdon and I normally train by ourselves together to save time. But I come out here every so often to see how everyone else is going and to train some of the men and women. Well, that's fantastic, beams Jeff. Man, he's so chirpy in the morning. It gives me a headache. Who are you wanting to train against? I turn and eye Langdon, who looks resigned. I'm guessing it's me, he tells Jeff Riley. Jeff just nods. He gestures for the warriors to leave the training ring. Wolves or human form? Asks Langdon as we get into the training ring and separate, staring at each other. Wolves, I growl, and he nods. Without hesitation, both of us begin to strip off our clothes. Then I spot Damian in the crowd. He's come out here to watch. I consider pointing him out to Langdon, but I don't want to distract him from our fight. I shift, bones cracking loudly in the otherwise quiet air. There's a small crowd gathered around us, something that I'm used to. It's not often they get to see their alpha fight another in the ring. Langdon shifts into his own wolf as well. I've always liked his wolf. It's a dark gray color all over except for a small patch of white on the nose. He's large, only a few inches smaller than my own black wolf. We glare at each other and begin to circle one another. I'm looking for an opening, any opening at all that will help. Langdon is the first to race towards me and I meet him halfway, both of us clawing and swiping at each other. I get on top of him and he bucks me off, sending me flying. I shake my head and run towards him, stopping just in time as he dodges to the side. Damn, he's fast, but I'm faster. We begin to circle each other, snarling, our jaws opening and shutting. This time he leaps towards me and I jump, meeting him in mid-air, my jaws clamping onto him as I land, shaking him and throwing his body into the nearest tree. He hits the tree with a large thud and crashes to the floor. It doesn't stop him though. He's up on his feet within moments. This is going to be a hard fight, just the way I like it. But then I spot someone's face in the crowd. Someone I hadn't expected to see, considering that I had left her tucked in bed in the room. What on earth was Winter thinking coming out here? Was she insane? She should have stayed inside the pack house if she'd gotten up, instead of coming outside and into the cold air. We were going to have a serious discussion once this was over. Now I'm distracted. I dodge to the side just in time as Langdon attempts to tackle me. I turn and swipe him across his midsection and hear him growl in response. I jump and land on top of him, only to get sent flying through the air as he twists and kicks me off. I'd forgotten just how good Langdon was at fighting. Then again, there was a reason I had made him my beta and it hadn't been just because we were best friends. This time I stalk over to him and tackle him to the ground. My wolf is bigger and more dominant. I clamp my jaws onto him and he wriggles and kicks. Then I go flying again. This is becoming a nuisance, I think to myself. We're so evenly matched the fight could go on forever. I look over at Winter and her face is completely ashen. She's standing next to Damian, a hand to her mouth. She looks worried. Langdon is looking over as well and has just realized Damian is in the crowd. Damian is just as pale and looks concerned for his mate. I don't think I can continue, not with Winter looking so frightened. Langdon appears to be thinking along the same lines. I shift. Langdon does the same with a smile on his face. Good fight, I tell him as we both bend down and retrieve our clothes. I just couldn't continue. I say, looking over at Winter pointedly. I know, Langdon says softly. I understand. We both get dressed. Then we make our way over to Damian and Winter. Damian's eyes are shining. You were awesome, he tells Langdon. I can't believe how well you fight. Thank you, Langdon says with a chuckle. He takes hold of Damian's hand. Do you want to do some training while I watch? He offers. Damian looks thoughtful. I wouldn't mind doing some training. I haven't really had the opportunity to in the last few months, he admits. Even at my old pack I tended to skip it. Well then there's no reason not to train here, Langdon answers, looking at his mate sternly. I glance over at Winter, who is looking and listening to the both of them intently. There's a smile on her face. She really does love that brother of hers, even with amnesia. Damian glances at her. Winter, would you like to stay? He offers. I would love to spend time with you. She frowns. I guess she still doesn't have much in the way of memories when it comes to Damian. I don't really enjoy watching the fighting, she says slowly. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. There's a disappointed look on Damian's face. Winter sees it. But maybe later, after the fighting, we could talk. Maybe you could tell me about our childhood, she says. Damian goes even paler. He swallows. Sure, we can do that, he says faintly. She gives him a beaming smile. Now Damian looks miserable. I guess he's going to have trouble explaining her rough childhood. I don't feel even an ounce of sympathy for him. Winter looks at me. I know you probably wanted me to stay in bed, she says quietly as Damian and Langdon move away from the both of us. I would have preferred you did, I growl, and she looks at me upset. I can't spend the rest of my life in bed, she points out. Not when I need to get to know you as well, considering that we're mates, she adds with a frown. She has a point. Doesn't mean I'm any less upset with her. I mind Link Langdon. I'm taking Winter back to the pack house. Let me know if you need me. Will do, Alpha Chi. Thanks. I gently take hold of Winter's hand and give it a kiss, noting how cold it is and frowning. I shrug out of my jacket and drape it over her. Cold? I ask, and she gives a small nod. No wonder she's so pale. It's a surprise her teeth aren't chattering together. Let's go home and have breakfast, I suggest, and she walks along with me obediently. I sigh. I don't want Winter to feel like I'm being possessive of her, but I'm afraid to let her out of my sight after what happened with Thomas. Even though that dead, I feel like I failed her. I'm not going to fail her ever again. Is it my imagination, or is she walking funny? Her body is stiff and her movements are slightly jerky. Are you feeling all right? I ask softly. She bites her lip. I don't know. I feel strange, she admits. I don't know how to explain it, but I know that I'm really thirsty, she says, even though I drank plenty of water before coming out here. Maybe you're just hungry, I suggest, steering her towards the pack house. I'm concerned but trying not to show it. Something seems off about Winter. But I'm not sure what it is. Her movements are strange. Like she's having trouble walking. She's definitely not all right. Then I see her stumble, and although I move fast, she drops to the ground in a dead faint as I stare down at her. I scoop her off the ground quickly. Her lips are blue now. Her hands are clammy. I change directions and begin to head towards the hospital, Winter securely cradled against my chest. I scold myself for not getting to her sooner and hope she hasn't injured her head. That's the last thing she needs. Hold on, Winter, I think to myself as I run. We're almost there. Hopefully the doctors have some idea of what caused her to faint. Because this doesn't just seem like she's sick to me. When I wake back up, the doctor is examining me, shining one of those damn bright lights in my eyes. I frown. I knew I hadn't been feeling well when I walked out to the grounds, but I hadn't realized I would actually faint. How embarrassing. The doctor looks concerned. Your iron is severely depleted, I can tell just by looking at you, Dr. Jameson says. That's what his name badge says anyway. What do we need to do? Asks Kai anxiously. Well, the doctor pauses. I would suggest eating iron-rich foods, such as plenty of red meat, spinach, but I also might suggest supplements. I feel you might have been drained when that hybrid took your blood and it's struggling to replenish itself. Kai nods, looking grim. I just feel woozy. Everything else appears to be fine and healthy. Winter, I really don't want to see you in here again, jokes the doctor as I struggle to sit upright. You can go home, Dr. Jameson says to me, but I suggest you take it easy and rest when you can. Especially since your amnesia still hasn't gone away. Thank you, I say meekly. Kai sighs. I'm carrying you back to the pack house, he says shortly. I frown at him. I'm perfectly capable of walking back, but something in his facial expression warns me not to push it. Good luck, Winter. Come back for a checkup in 2 weeks' time, suggests Dr. Jameson. Will check your iron levels and give you a transfusion if it's needed. I nod and climb out of bed, my legs almost buckling beneath me. Kai's hand whips out and supports me, preventing me from sliding to the floor. Careful, mutters Kai, admonishing me. Like I did it on purpose. I give a huff, feeling annoyed at him. I'm not some delicate piece of china that's going to break. I was getting tired of being treated like it. He scoops me up and I give a shriek, kicking and wiggling. Stop, he growls, and I pause, my body tense as he cradles me against his chest. I sniff involuntarily and my mouth waters. Man, he smells delicious, his scent strong and pungent. I can't get enough of it. His arms tighten around me. I'm taking you back to the pack house, he murmurs, and I don't bother to argue. Instead, I force my body to relax against him, rather than fight against him. He looks relieved. Slowly, he walks out of the hospital room and heads towards the main entrance. Where's Damian? I ask out of nowhere, and he looks at me, jaw clenched tight. Apparently Damian is a sore spot for him for some reason. But I remember speaking to Damian just before I fainted. Plus he is my brother, apparently. He's waiting in the dining room for you, along with Langdon, he grunts as we make our way out of the hospital and onto the grounds. It doesn't look like much time has passed since I've fainted. At least judging by the sun's position in the sky. I curse the fact that I don't have a watch or a way to tell time. I snuggle against Kai. His body is nice and warm. He walks with me in his arms with ease, as though I don't weigh more than a feather. It's actually a nice feeling. He's quiet, but he looks concerned, all of his focus on the pack house which is up ahead. My stomach growls loudly and he chuckles. I guess you're hungry, he laughs. I blush. But it's true. I'm starving. Suddenly ravenous. It feels like it came out of nowhere. We enter the pack house and he walks to the dining room. Winter, cries Damian as Kai reluctantly puts me down, one arm snaking around my waist as I lean against him. How are you feeling? I feel a little weak and shaky. I didn't mean to worry anyone, I answer softly, Damian leans forward and then hesitates. He looks uncertainly at me and at Kai. I don't know what makes me do it, but I close the gap and fling my arms around him. His arms instantly go around me and he hugs me tightly to him. I breathe in his scent, recognizing it's familiar. A memory comes to me. I'm so small. Just a little girl, who is running around the grass while her mother and father watch her. Her older brother is sitting on the ground, looking bored. I don't want to play by myself, it's boring. Come get me, Damian, I cry. Come play chasey. At first he ignores me. But my mother gently nudges him and he slowly gets to his feet. I shriek and run, Damian's footsteps behind me. I giggle and shriek, running as fast as my little legs will carry me. I'm going to get you, he shouts as I speed up. I dodge around trees and jump over branches, ignoring the fact that I'm getting dirt all over my dress, wanting nothing more than to play with him. Then he tackles me to the ground and I giggle, wriggling underneath him. He grins at me. I got you, he says, and my eyes shine up with adoration at my older brother. The memory's gone just as quickly. But it's enough for me to feel some love and tenderness towards Damian as I give a small sob and hug him. Slowly he pulls away. Why are you crying? He asks me, slightly panicked, Kai scowling darkly at him. I wipe the tears from my eyes. Just a memory, I tell him softly, a nice one. Why does he look so relieved to hear that? Kai relaxes slightly as well. My stomach lets out a loud growl, reminding Kai why we came to the dining room in the first place. He pulls a chair out from the table for me and motions for me to sit. Langdon and Damian join me. Have you guys eaten? Asks Kai gruffly as he gets behind the kitchen counter. We have, but we could always eat again, Langdon grins. That would be nice, all of us eating together, I beam. Kai falls silent at my look of happiness, shooting dirty looks at Langdon and Damian when he thinks I'm not looking. Winter, what do you feel like? He asks, perusing the refrigerator and its contents. I have to think. But I'm craving meat like nobody's business, and the first thing that comes to mind is what I call out. Steaks, I say hopefully, and they all look surprised. Steaks, Kai repeats, looking taken aback. Anything else? To be honest, I only want the steaks. Honestly, the thought of anything else is making my stomach churn. Maybe some juice, I answer slowly. I'll just make some steaks and eggs with toast, declares Kai, shooting the others a look. If anyone else wants something different, then they are welcome to make it themselves. That sounds good, declares Langdon, and Damian nods fervently. Good, no one seems to be too bothered by the steaks. I have to admit it's a strange craving to have. Maybe it's the lack of iron? I sniff appreciatively as the steaks get taken out of the fridge, my mouth watering in anticipation. Even though they haven't been cooked yet, they smell delicious. I can't wait to get my teeth into one. Langdon gets up and grabs the juice, pouring a glass for everyone. Here, he says kindly, pushing a glass towards me. Thanks, I mutter, staring at the orange juice with revulsion. It had seemed like a good idea at the time, but now that it was right in front of my nose, it was making my stomach heave. I tentatively take a sip and almost spit it out. It tastes strange, like it's gone off, but when I glance over at Langdon and Damian, they don't seem to have a problem with the juice at all. Strange. I gently push my glass to the side and glance over at Kai. He's got the fry pan ready and the eggs are cooking, toast in the toaster ready to be buttered. Now he just had to deal with the steaks. Winter, how do you like your steaks? He asks. I have to think for a moment. Normally I would go for well done, but my body wants something different. Before I can even consider what I'm about to do, I call out rare and lean back in my chair. If Kai thinks my decision is weird, he doesn't say anything, Langdon and Damian opting to have their steaks medium rare. Within minutes Kai's finished everyone's breakfast. He brings mine over first and I can smell the tantalizing odor of the meat on the plate as he places it in front of me. My stomach growls loudly and my mouth begins to water. Kai gives me a peck on the cheek. Breakfast, he growls and then gives the others their food before plopping onto a chair on the opposite side of me. I stare down at the steak in fascination. There's blood oozing underneath it. The eggs look like runny liquid and I scrape it to the side, not wanting to taste it. I nibble lightly at the toast but my stomach doesn't like the taste. Thank you for breakfast, I tell Kai and he gives me a small smile, diving into his own breakfast. He's given me the biggest portion of steak and I reach for the knife and fork. As soon as I press on the steak, blood oozes out. It's definitely rare, I see with satisfaction. I cut a tiny piece off and place it in my mouth, chewing slowly and almost moaning as it hits my taste buds. It's so sweet, so tender. I'm desperate for more. This time I take a slightly larger piece and plop it in my mouth, closing my eyes in ecstasy. It's so juicy. So soft. It's the best thing I've eaten in a very long time. I begin to dive into the steak while the others eat around me. So if you want to start training, how about together the two of us, go out there tomorrow morning? Langdon. Are you sure? Damian. Of course. You can only learn by training. Heck, I'll even train you as well. Langdon. That's brilliant. I can't wait. Damian. I ignore them. All I want is this beautiful steak. When I glance down and see that I've eaten the entire piece of it, I almost want to cry. Kai shoves a small piece at me. I wasn't sure if you would want more, he explains, his eyes on the steak that's gone. At least I'm eating, I want to tell him indignantly. Soon though, that piece is gone and I'm still craving more. But I don't know what. I stare down at the small pool of blood on the plate. I inhale and the metallic scent is strong in the air, but instead of filling me with revulsion, I feel hunger instead. Without thinking about it, I place the toast and eggs on the tabletop and lift the plate up in both hands, staring at the blood with fascination. I tip the plate towards my mouth and the blood slowly trickles down, into my open mouth, trailing down my throat as I swallow it all greedily. It's so good. I lick my lips. I even lick all the blood off the plate and smack my lips together. Utter silence. That's the first thing I notice. Everyone is staring at me awkwardly. Kai of course looks like he's about to faint. I stare back, wondering what's wrong. They look like they've seen a ghost. What is wrong with them? I wasn't acting that strangely, was I? In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel energized, rather than weak like earlier. Kai is the first to speak. Winter, are you feeling all right? I feel great, I tell him honestly. Fantastic. Langdon and Damian are shooting Kai sidelong glances. Alright, do you want to try and rest? Asks Damian. I shake my head. Maybe I could join in on training? Or go for a run or something. I think a run would do some good. Kai agrees, but you just fainted not long ago, so how about taking it easy until I can go for a run with you? I pout. Fine, I might go read a book, I say grumpily. I get up and storm upstairs. Why were they all acting so freaked out all of a sudden? Unknown POV. God, I can't believe I managed to escape from that horrible dungeon. Those thought they could keep me in there forever, but I showed them. I showed them all. That Omega, I don't even feel sorry for messing around with her feelings. As if I was in love with her, HA. She's about the same age as my daughter Winter. Still, she served her purpose, so I can't really complain about that, can I? She was just so easily fooled. That's what they get for using Omegas to bring my food to me. It was just a matter of time until I managed to sweet talk one. Stupid pack. My feet crunch on the grass. How fortunate it was that there was a rogue attack as I was escaping. Even I can't believe my good fortune. It was like the moon goddess herself was urging me to escape. I take my time walking. There's nothing but clear blue sky for miles and no sign of rain or anything gloomy like that. The sun is warm, which is good because the only thing I have on is pants. They left me shirtless in that damn dungeon. I could shift, but I'm still weak from my injuries and find it easier to travel in human form and allow my wolf to recover. I frown at the ground. I've managed to cover a large area of space. That Alpha Jonathan was missing from the pack, and rumor had it he'd gone searching for my daughter Winter, with my son no less. They thought I couldn't hear them, but I paid attention. Even when blood was pooling from my wounds, I listened and I remembered everything they spoke about. They should have been more careful. Sometimes I'd faked being unconscious in order to get them to talk even more. I know all sorts of things. Winter being mute, my son's apparent guilt over the whole thing. I spit at the ground in anger. That son of mine stood up against me and all for her. What had made him change his mind over hurting Winter? How dare he stand up and tell me no? This was all his fault, well, his and Winter's. I would forever hate my daughter, no matter how much those big eyes of hers pleaded for me to stop, or the tears that she cried in front of me. Once upon a time I would have stopped instantly and hugged her, but now I can't even bear to think of touching her. I could just leave and go in another direction. But I want revenge. Revenge for what happened to me in that dungeon. It's all Winter and Damian's fault that I ended up there. It's their fault that I was tortured. It's their fault for my miserable existence. My hands clench into fists as I walk, my head lowered down to avoid stepping on anything sharp or pointy with my bare feet. Slam! The door swings shut on the cell in the dungeon as I race to it, my fingers curling around the bars, ignoring the burning sensation of the silver against my flesh. Let me out, I roar, and the boy, Jonathan, stares at me with anger on his face. You sold your own daughter for money, he hissed, and I stare at him and shrug. Of course I had, I needed it to pay back some debts. How did this concern him? It's not like it affected him at all. He should get out of my business. He motions to the guards. Shoot him, he orders, and I notice for the first time that the guards are holding tranquilizer darts. I have no doubt they contain wolfsbane. I can smell it from here. I back away, but it's too late. The darts hit me, one in the chest and another in my thigh. I let out a roar and pull them out, but it's too late. My body flops to the ground. Get him chained, Jonathan says coldly from above me. The guards haul me up, even as I kick and fight, chaining me up against the wall, my back exposed to them. I snarl, trying to look over my shoulder. His eyes are dark, there's an unreadable expression on his face. He's holding something in his hand, but I can't make out what it is from my position. I refuse to let some young lad intimidate me like this. The first crack of the whip surprises me more than hurts. But I can tell it's silver because my back is literally burning until he pulls it away. I let out a howl, my whole body shuddering. I'll kill you when I get free, I promise him, my voice shaking. The boy is silent. The only reason I'm not killing you is because of Winter, he says. God help her, but she still thinks of you as her father, despite everything you've done to her. Crack. The pain is excruciating. I cry out at the second strike. This is for Winter, he grunts, and the whip slashes my back. This time it's so powerful that I scream, involuntarily. He certainly put most of his strength into it. This is for Damian, he mutters as the whip slashes me again. My whole body is shaking now. I'm not sure how much more I can take, but I don't want to give the satisfaction of seeing me fall unconscious. My hands clench into fists. When I get out of here, I mutter slowly, I am going to kill you and my children with my bare hands. Crack. This time I'm prepared for the whip. Then there's silence. It's nerve-wracking. I can't tell what he's doing. There's the sounds of things being moved and touched. That's when I realize he's going for something else. He has to be. Take him off the wall and let him dangle from the ceiling, he orders, and I feel the guards moving me around as I stare down at them with hatred. Soon my feet are dangling off the floor and my hands are stretched over my head. Jonathan walks in front of me, brandishing a silver dagger. I suck in a breath. He can do some serious damage with that. He caresses it, touching the tip, his hands covered in gloves to prevent himself from being burned by the knife. He moves his head. You know, I suspect that Winter has scars all over her body from you. It would explain the loose baggy clothing she wears, he hisses, and I flinch. He would be correct. His eyes light up at my reaction and I swear as I realize I've given myself away. He plunges the dagger into the side of my midsection and I scream, my skin bubbling and burning bright red. He pulls it back out and examines it. Get the doctor, he snaps over his shoulder, and moves close to me. You were going to let your own daughter be raped, he breathes, his face inches from mine. I think it's only fair that we make sure you can't physically do anything like that to anyone. You sick, twisted, I have no idea what he's talking about. A man comes down to the dungeon, looking uneasy, Jonathan looking over his shoulder and giving a quick nod. Then I feel him, he's cupping my manhood and clutching the dagger. Oh God, no! I start to writhe in my chains, kicking and screaming. His hands tighten and I howl. He's going to crush them at this rate. I don't see it, but I feel it as he severs my ball sack from my body, my mouth open in an endless scream as I sob hysterically. The doctor injects me with something that makes me fall unconscious. When I wake up, there's stitches and my scrotum is gone forever. I'm no longer a man, and it's because of them. I shudder at the memory of it all. My gaze unconsciously goes to my nether regions and my lip curls with hatred. They have ruined me forever. He ruined me forever. I spent months recovering from that ordeal, planning my revenge and plotting. Then I began to hear the rumors of winter and I listened. I know which way to go, which direction to follow, and it's because of Jonathan's beta letting loose the information. I sit beneath a tree, needing to rest. I had half expected them to send out a search party for me, but maybe they thought I was killed by rogues? I need a drink like no one's business. But I don't dare walk into town. That would make it far too easy to find me. Although they even have half a brain, they would know exactly where I was going. I plan on dragging Winter back with me. She can still earn me money, but Damian would have to die. He had become too much of an overprotective older brother and I can no longer trust him to do what's right. There's the crack of thunder in the distance. So much for there being clear skies. Now I can see storm clouds gathering. Is everything going to be going wrong today? I don't have the energy to make a goddamn shelter. I pause, debating my options. There's a pack not far from here. I could pretend to have run into some rogues and needing assistance. But it's risky. Especially if Alpha Jonathan has put the word out to keep an eye on me. I scowl. I guess I need to make a goddamn shelter. How annoying. I slam branches down, in a right mood. My wolf is telling me to calm down, but I ignore him. Since we lost our balls, he's been particularly sulky. It's exasperating me. I slam the shelter together, taking all my anger and frustration out on it. The stupid thing is barely waterproof, but I don't care. As the rain is starting to sprinkle down on me and I poke my tongue out, letting the raindrops fall on it and swallowing gratefully. I'm thirsty. It's been a long travel. We haven't come across any lakes or streams yet. I slowly climb into the shelter, keeping my head poking out. The rain begins to get heavier and soon it's hailing down. There won't be any moving until it's past. It could take a while. I remind myself that I have time. So much time it isn't funny. This isn't a race, not for me. I would rather be slow and cautious than be caught before I can take my revenge. The wind begins to get heavier. I hope my shelter doesn't go flying. Maybe I should have put a bit more effort in. My wolf is smug. I scowl and put a block up, refusing to talk to him. At least there won't be any rogues. They hate water and when it rains. That means I'm safe for now. Which is good, I'm not particularly in the mood for a fight right now. Even though it might help my anger out. I content myself with lying down on my back and closing my eyes. I ignore the thudding sounds of the heavy rain and the whoosh of the air as it causes branches to move back and forth. I drown out all the sounds and instead begin to picture my son and daughter in my mind's eye. I remember what they look like. I remember everything about them. Winter is no match for me. She never was, and I doubt she's gotten stronger even with her wolf. Damian might prove to be more difficult, but I can handle him if I need to. But it's Winter I want, Winter who I will take back with me. I don't care how long I have to wait to make my move, my daughter is coming back to the house, whether she likes it or not. Damian POV. Well, I've spent some time with Winter, trying to make her remember me and the small, very rare, good parts of her childhood, but it's been difficult. She still can't fully remember and it makes it awkward. We feel like strangers rather than the family that we are. Poor Kai is devastated. It can't be easy seeing the mark on her neck suddenly gone. Plus he's too nice to just mark her without her consent. I know if that happened with Langdon I'd be pretty upset. Langdon's been pretty quiet lately. I've just gotten into the shower, wondering where on earth he's gone to, when the door opens and he comes waltzing in. I raise my eyebrows. He leans back against the vanity and folds his arms, his expression unreadable. Do you want to join me? I offer, but he shakes his head. I was hoping he would. Thanks, but I'm enjoying the view, he purrs, and I can't help but blush. Even now, I still have a reaction to the man. My body just does it automatically. If you got undressed, I could enjoy the view too, I grumble as he chuckles. Are we training today? I ask him eagerly. He's been super wicked at showing me the ropes and training me. It's been fun. But he looks pensive. To be honest, he says calmly, I thought we could do something else today instead. Now I'm intrigued. What kind of thing were you thinking of? I ask slyly. He grins. It's a surprise. I groan out loud. I'm not particularly fond of surprises, but if my mate wants it to be, then I'll go along with him. Besides, now that I'm looking at him closely, he looks excited, more so than usual. It has to be something pretty important then. Does Kai know about this surprise? I ask suspiciously. After all, as the beta, Langdon can't just walk away from the pack for anything without permission. Of course, Langdon says lightly as I turn the water off in the shower and wrap a towel around the bottom half of me. He follows me back out to the bedroom. Man, he must have been up super early today to be dressed and showered before me. I thought I was an early riser, but he's even worse. How should I dress then? I say, exasperated. Formal, not formal. Wear something comfortable and loose, he says, and I eye his clothes with raised eyebrows. He's dressed in trousers and a shirt, so I figure I should do the same. Except that I go for black jeans and a white shirt. He looks impressed, licking his lips. I give him a wink. Follow me, he orders. We walk down to the garage, and I'm expecting to see his car. But instead he retrieves 2 helmets and hands one to me. Well, that's a surprise in itself. I hadn't known he had a bike. Now my own heart is thudding wildly in my chest. I've always wanted a motorbike but could never afford one. Besides, it hadn't made sense to get one when I had a perfectly working car. He leads me to a Harley and I drool at it. It's a fine piece of work, leather seats, huge motor, one large piece of beauty. Langdon laughs at the expression on my face. He gets on and flips the helmet over his head. Get on, he shouts, his voice muffled by the helmet. I gingerly get on behind him, wrapping my arms tightly around his waist for balance. He starts the bike with a loud roar, and then slowly peels out as I tremble in excitement. We head out of the pack house and onto the main roads, swerving between the traffic. Langdon seems to be a pro at handling the bike, and it's so fast, it easily surpasses the cars on the road. The wind is rushing through my hair and I feel free, freer than I've ever felt in my life. We begin to slow down once we reach the city, to my disappointment, and he pulls into a parking lot, full of cars. I narrow my eyes. Has he brought me to a carnival? Sweet, uptight Langdon? Surely not. I climb off the bike and pull of the helmet, Langdon climbing off slowly, a wide smile on his face. I hope you like carnivals, he teases. My heart skips a beat. Man, I love carnivals. I wonder who told him, or like me, he loved them as well. Brilliant, I breathe out, handing the helmet to him and watching him place it on the handlebar. I thought it was time we went for our first date, he announces, grabbing hold of my hand and leading me to the entrance. He pays for our entry and then we head inside. My head swings everywhere. Where did we go first? There were so many choices. Then I spot the roller coaster and my eyes light up as I drag him over. Langdon clutches the front of the seats, looking green as we go up and over, spinning around fast. When it's finished I have to help him out, his legs swaying slightly as he walks. I have to stifle my laughter. How about that one? I ask eagerly, pointing to a ride that went up high and then dropped quickly. Langdon goes pale. Sure, he stammers. We don't have to, I protest, but he shakes his head. No, let's do it. The poor sweet man screamed the entire time we dropped. He also went so pale I thought he was going to faint. I helped him out, feeling slightly guilty. I should have insisted on doing something else. Langdon, do you even enjoy carnivals? I ask suspiciously. He looks sheepish. I kind of heard you say how much you like them, so I thought it would make a perfect date, he mumbles. I'm not too fond of them myself, to be honest. I'm so touched. He was doing something special for me, even though he didn't really enjoy it. How about the Ferris wheel, I say softly. Surely that ride would be all right for him. His eyes light up. Score one for Damian, I think to myself. Let's do that last, he suggests. Get some ice cream and fairy floss first. Man, I'm down for that. Not to mention the endless games that are waiting for me. Langdon seems content to stand and watch me, eating the fairy floss and even stealing mine. Not that I mind. I'm having a blast. We even do a ring toss game together. He's really relaxed out here, and it's a good side of Langdon that I'm seeing. He's not so uptight out here, away from all his responsibilities of the pack. He's even content holding my hand, despite the strange looks we are receiving and the occasional insult under someone's breath. It doesn't seem to bother him at all. It doesn't bother me. I thought it would, but to be honest, all my focus is on him and the enjoyment of the date. Everything else around us seems to fade away. Man, I'm stuffed, I growl, patting my stomach. So much fairy floss and ice cream, not to mention the hot chips and hot dogs I've eaten. I feel like I'm about to explode. Langdon hasn't fared much better, but he mainly stuffed himself on fairy floss. Apparently it's a weakness of him. I feel like I'm going to need to be rolled back to the motorbike, grouses Langdon. I shouldn't have eaten so much. You ate less than I did, I point out with amusement. You really should have tried one of those hot dogs. He wrinkles his nose. Do you even know what's in a hot dog, he demands. No, I groan, and I don't want to know. Not unless you want me to be sick at any rate. Is there any other games or rides you want to go on? Langdon queries. I shake my head, then remember. We were going to go on the Ferris wheel, I mutter. It's not as crowded at the carnival now, not when it was starting to get late. We'd spent out here. Oh yeah, Langdon said quietly. We turned towards the ride, grateful to see there's hardly anyone waiting. Langdon pays for our tickets and I swear he's talking to the ride operator, because it takes him ages to come back. Everything all right? I ask him. He looks taken aback. Yet everything is fine, he babbles. My eyes narrow. He's up to something, I'm sure of it. We get to the head of the line and sit down, putting the safety bar over us. The ride begins and the view is amazing. You can see over the city, the bright lights, the sunset, all of it. It's beautiful. I'm in awe. I'm glad we decided to do this ride last, because the view is nothing short of spectacular. Then the ride stops suddenly. I glance downwards nervously, but Langdon has a wide grin on his face. Did he know the ride was going to stop when we were at the very top? Langdon, I say, did you do this? He smirks. Then moves closer. His hands grab hold of the sides of my face, his eyes staring into mine as I swallow nervously. God, he's beautiful. He moves forward, his face inches from mine, and then slowly, tenderly, he places his lips against mine, one of his hands going to the back of my head and holding it in place. I moan out loud, his tongue diving inside, touching mine and caressing it as I push my lips back against his, giving as good as I've got. It feels like time has stopped still, everything around us, the noise, the lights, fading away into the background. My hands go around his neck, pushing deeper in the kiss, my own tongue eagerly dancing with his. My hands itch to explore him, to feel him all over, and I'm only dimly aware that we're out in public. Then the ride starts again, causing both of us to pull back reluctantly. That was so romantic, I tell Langdon, and he looks pleased. I bribed the operator, that's what took so long, he beams. I grin back. When we get off the ride, I'm sad to see the evening is over. It was such a nice day and it was made more special spending it with my mate. I sadly take hold of Langdon's hand. What's wrong? He asks. Nothing, I'm just sad the date has ended. I try not to sniffle. After all, there will be plenty of dates. Won't there? Langdon looks confused. But there'll be loads of other dates, he points out, stifling a smile. I promise you that. Plus we still have to ride the motorbike back, he says, and I cheer up. There is that. The drive back is quiet. It's hard to talk anyway with all the noise from the bike and the wind. We get back to the pack house and Langdon takes my helmet and puts it away. I'm about to turn and head to the pack house with him, when he pulls back on my hand and stops me. Just a second, he says quietly. Damian, I want you to know that I genuinely care about you. I'm not taking this mate bond for granted, there will be other dates. He exhales as I listen, a smile on my face. I'm not really good at expressing my feelings. But I can do better. In the meantime, he says with a chuckle, holding out his hand with the motorbike key. I stare, not comprehending. What was going on? What was this? It's yours, he clarifies the bike. I got it for you. I know you've always wanted one. It's mine, I whisper, and he nods. I fling myself into his arms. "Thank you so much," I utter over and over again as I hug him. He pulls me back and then I astonish him by giving him a massive kiss. One that gets my heart racing, my body beginning to get turned on by touching him. I pull back and grab Langdon by the hand, the key firmly held in my other one. "What do you say we take this to the bedroom?" I breathe, about to show him just how much I appreciate him. The perfect end to what had turned out to be the perfect day. Kai POV Winter's been acting really strangely lately. Even Damian has noticed it and her memories still aren't coming back. At least not completely. Is it possible that's the reason for it all? I still can't get the image of her eating steak for breakfast and then licking the blood. Sure, shifters crave meat, but I don't think even my craving's gone that far. Maybe she's pregnant? Like having weird cravings? But wouldn't she know if she was? Besides, I don't think bringing up the possibility is a good idea. She'll most likely start yelling at me. I think it's safer to put that idea by the wayside for now. I'm sitting in the study, perusing my paperwork. There's so much of it. But that's the life of an alpha. Everything has to run smoothly in the pack. The phone rings and I frown. Only certain people, mainly other alphas, have the phone number in the study and it's a small amount at that. I pick up the receiver. "Alpha Kai here," I growl. "Oh Kai, thank God I got hold of you," the voice says. I stare down at the receiver. The voice is somewhat familiar to me. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. This has to be Jonathan. What does he want? "Jonathan, this better be an emergency," I say tightly. There's silence on the other end. "Well, I wouldn't quite say it's an emergency," his voice says quietly. "Jonathan, what on earth is going on?" A large exhale. My hands clench into fists. He isn't even here and he's driving me insane. Sake. What does the moron want now? "Look, it was an accident," Jonathan begins. Not the best way to start a sentence. Winter's father was being held at my pack as a prisoner. I roll my eyes. "Tell me something I don't know." "I already know that," I growl, "so what about it?" "Well, while I was gone, at your pack," Jonathan says delicately as I listen intently, "her father managed to escape. I am assuming he will make his way to your pack. Apparently he knows where Winter and Damian are." I swear, slamming my hand onto the desk and placing a large dent in it. I close my eyes. For once, can't we just get a break? Especially Winter. She's had enough to deal with. "How could you let this happen?" I snap irritably. "What good is your pack if it lets someone go free?" "I'm just as upset as you are," Jonathan growls back, "but what's done is done. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Because he's a piece of work, let me tell you." "Thanks," I mutter. "I'll get my men to keep an eye out." "But Jonathan, I'm majorly pissed off at you." "I can live with that," Jonathan says easily. "Good luck with everything. He's completely ruined my day and I bet he doesn't talk about it either." I slam the phone down and put my head in my hands. Great. Another thing to deal with. Winter's father was abusive to her whole childhood. No doubt she felt safer with him a prisoner. How on earth do I take that sense of safety away? Do I even tell her? Maybe there's a way to keep her out of the loop and deal with this problem at the same time. I mind Langdon and Damian, can you both come to the study? It's important, so come straight away, don't dawdle, I warn them. I hope Winter is sleeping upstairs. She seems to sleep a lot lately. A knock on the door. Get in here now, I snap, and they walk in, sitting in the chairs opposite the desk, while I hastily close the door behind them. We have a bit of a situation, I say with a grimace. Jonathan just rang to inform me that they've had a prisoner escape. That shouldn't really be a problem, Langdon says, confused. Why doesn't he just track the prisoner down? He folds his arms over his chest. Hey! I should have asked that when I had him on the phone. I'm guessing because the prisoner's now too far away to track, I say wryly. Normally it wouldn't be our problem either, but the prisoner happens to be. I trail off, not wanting to finish the sentence. Damian pipes up, his face completely ashen. Mine and Winter's father. Isn't that right, he adds quietly. I give a small nod. Langdon exhales. How long do we have? Until he gets here? Could be weeks, could be days, especially if he makes his way here without stopping anywhere else, I say grimly. Whispers Damian. For once the boy doesn't look asterisk. In fact, he looks like he's going to be sick. Langdon grabs hold of his hand and gives it a squeeze. It's all right, Damian. We'll keep a close lookout for him. He's just one shifter, and not even a strong one at that, Langdon said, trying to soothe his mate who looked distraught. Christ, if this is the reaction Damian had, then there was no way I was going to even entertain the thought of telling Winter. He can't be that bad, I say to Damian. Can he? I ask, sounding uncertain. He looks grim. He tortured Winter for her entire childhood. I'm also to blame for that, but he enjoyed it, he whispered, incredulous. He actually derived pleasure from hurting his daughter. God, I want to beat the man into a pulp. With luck, I'll get my chance to. Is he a strong fighter, I muse, and Damian shakes his head, then looks at Langdon, biting his lips. He's a lot stronger than me, Damian tells his mate. I never could stand up against him. We still have plenty of time until he gets here, I tell them. Both patrol will be on the lookout as well, but honestly I don't really think he poses much of a risk or danger. In all likelihood someone from patrol will round him up and put him in the dungeon. He doesn't sound that strong to me. I agree, Langdon says firmly, looking directly at Damian, who doesn't look convinced. You have nothing to be afraid of, not when I and Alpha Chi will protect you and Winter. Damian looks slightly calmer. What are you going to tell Winter? He asks. She thinks she's safe and that he's a prisoner in Jonathan's pack. Well, she did, he mutters with her amnesia. I'm not sure if she even remembers that. I shrug, trying to look carefree. I'm not going to tell her anything, I say lightly. I don't want anything to stress her out any more than she already is. You can't just keep the truth from her, Damian protests. She needs to know so that she can keep herself safe. You'll only make her angry by not telling her. I'm trying to protect her, I thunder. She doesn't need to know. What good would it do? She would just be constantly looking over her shoulder and jumping at every little noise. She's stronger than that, Damian counters. Langdon stays silent in the background. I scowl at him. His mate is challenging my decisions and it's pissing me off. I won't let this harm her or put her back from her recovery, I shout, getting to my feet and sending several things flying off the desk. The door swings open. Winter stands there, her arms folded, an angry expression on her face. Damian gulps. Langdon looks nervous and I give her a small smile. How long has she been standing there and listening? She strides forward and puts her hands on the desk, her body leaning forward, her eyes staring directly into mine. This isn't good. What is it that you don't want to tell me? She says very quietly, but the tone of her voice is ominous and enough to make even Langdon cringe. It's blatantly clear that she's furious. Listen, Winter, I say hastily, it's not that big a deal. I trail off, her eyes narrowing as she glares at me. She's not buying it at all. She has a right to know, Damian hisses, after all it concerns her. Fine, I bark at him. The both of you get out of here, I thunder. Damian peels himself off the chair and tugs Langdon to the doorway. Langdon gives me an apologetic glance over his shoulder, before he leaves the room with his mate. Winter folds her arms across her chest and stamps her foot impatiently. Well, she says snarkily, what is it you're hiding from me, Kai? Don't lie to me, she warns. I sigh. Fine, your father has escaped from Jonathan's prison. Apparently he's on the way here. Silence. Awkward silence. She falls back into a chair, a hand to her mouth in shock. Tears form at the corner of her eyes. She clearly remembers her father then. Shame. I would have preferred she never remembered him ever again. You're sure? She asks me, almost desperately. You're sure he's coming here and not somewhere else? I'm not sure, but Jonathan says he knows where you and Damian are, and I need to act accordingly. You were going to keep this secret from me, she says, scandalized. How could you, Kai? I have a right to know that he's coming for me. Even if it means that I have to stay inside to be safe, you should have told me immediately. I only just found out, I explain heavily. Damian and Langdon were my first priority. I just didn't want to stress you out, I say, flinching at the look on her face. You have no right to make decisions for me without my consent, she says, throwing her hands up. You wouldn't like it if I did that to you. No, I wouldn't, I have to admit. I was trying to do the right thing, I argue back. Well, stop making decisions for me, she cries. I'm an adult, Kai, I can make my own. Please, promise me, you won't try and hide anything from me ever again. Her voice is soft, pleading with me. Her eyes are beseeching me. I can't resist the tears that are forming in the corner of her eyes. She's more upset than I imagined she would be. I promise I won't hide anything else from you, I say sternly, but you have to listen to me and keep yourself safe. Is that fair? She gives a nod, a small smile on her face. Kai, she says gently, I will try and keep myself safe, but I won't lock myself in a room while everyone else goes about their lives. I might not be prepared to fight my father, but I also won't let him take over my life and living. Good, I say with a smile, because I don't want that for you either. Winter, how would you feel about visiting the training ring over the next few days? Get some training in? I'm sure Sabriel is missing it. For some reason she looks inexplicably sad. Have I said something wrong? She hedges. Haven't been feeling well lately, so it might not be a good idea to visit the training ring, until I'm fully well again. Now I'm concerned. She hasn't been feeling well for a while now. Do you think you need to see a doctor? I ask, maybe just for a checkup. She shakes her head. No, I think I'm just a bit under the weather, she admits. I'm sure that with plenty of rest and fluids, that I'll start to feel a lot better soon. I'm not so sure about that. But she reaches over and takes my hand, squeezing it gently. I remembered a little bit more today, she tells me eagerly. Her memories have started to come back in dribs and drabs, which is a good sign. Even if it's slightly frustrating, because there seems to be no order for when they come, it's completely sporadic and random. What did you remember? I ask and she gives me a grin. Then I notice that she's blushing, her cheeks a bright red color. Whatever she's remembered, it is obviously something good. I bet I know what it is too. I remembered our first night together, she breathes, kissing my hand, and how special you made me feel. I bent down and kiss her, tenderly, winter melting in my arms. I love you, I tell her, and my heart skips a beat when she repeats it back to me. Winter POV smack. I can feel the sting as he slaps me directly across the face. I put a hand to my cheek. His face is inches from mine and I can smell the sour taste of his breath. You stupid, he hisses, where's the beer? I had forgotten we were out. It was my job to keep the fridge fully stocked, but between school and studying it had slipped my mind. I guess I should be thankful that he left money for his beer, but hardly anything else for actual food. I forgot, I mumble, dropping my head to my chest and hoping he might show mercy. But he shows none. Instead he grabs hold of my arm and twists it as I cry out from the pain, shoving me in front of him and down to the basement, the one place I fear most in the world. Please, I beg, but he ignores my pleas for mercy, shoving me so hard down the stairs that I almost trip and fall. I catch myself on the railing just in time. Move, he snarls, and reluctantly, I place one foot in front of the other, until I'm standing at the base of the stairs, his large frame thundering after me. I can see it and my whole body trembles. I don't want to go in there. All that's waiting in there is more pain. More abuse. But he shoves me towards it, hard, and my body smacks to the ground. He curses under his breath. Move, you, he growls, and I get back up, feeling woozy and lightheaded. His eyes are gleaming in the darkness and there's a twisted smile on his face. He is enjoying this. I stand in front of it, willing my body to move. But I'm paralyzed with fear. He laughs, loudly, and pushes me hard, my body flailing as I fall inside the silver cell he's created, just for me. I turn around and he brandishes the whip, the one that digs into flesh and gouges you, at me. Father, don't do this, I beg, and he shakes his head at me. You are no daughter of mine, he spits, you murderer. I fall silent. I am a murderer. If it wasn't for me, my mother would still be alive. I'm the reason she's dead. I'm the reason my own father and brother hate me. Lie down, he orders me, and for a moment I waver. What would happen if I defied him? Refused to do as he said? But another part of me knows I'll only make it worse if I try. I lie down on the hard, cold concrete ground, my back exposed. I know what's coming and I bite my lip, trying to hold back the cries. Thwack! The first hit of the whip lands between my shoulder blades. Even with my clothes on, it's digging into my skin, and when he pulls it back, I can feel large chunks of flesh being pulled along with it. The pain is excruciating. Thwack! He doesn't hold back, using all of his strength to whip me. I begin to scream, the sounds echoing throughout the otherwise empty basement. Thwack! I stopped counting after the first 5. My whole body is now numb with shock. I can't hold back my screams, and if anything, that makes him smile even wider. My own father is enjoying hearing me scream from the pain. Thwack! Blood is pooling around my body on the floor. The whip has silver on it. I can feel my flesh burning and bubbling as it touches the strips where my clothing has ripped and torn. Thwack! I don't know if I'm going to make it out this time alive. It's the longest he's beaten me for, and he shows no signs of letting up. Am I going to die, right here in the basement? Thwack! I barely feel the smack of the whip anymore. I feel like I might be dying. He gives a grunt. You stay in here, you miserable worthless, he declares, and I hear the door to the cell closing. Part of me is relieved he's finally finished, hearing his footsteps as he storms up the stairs and slams through the basement door. Another part of me is worried I won't live through the night. I lay there, in my own blood, my head resting on my arms. I can't move. Every single tiny movement I make brings pain. I'll heal from these wounds, but without a wolf it will take some time. Not only that, but I'll be left with yet another bunch of scars on my body to join the old ones. What if I were to kill myself? Comes a voice in my head. Finally give father what he wants and my brother as well? I try to tune out the voice, but it's persistent, constant, not letting go. That was the first night I seriously started to contemplate killing myself. While I didn't go through with it, it stayed on my mind for the rest of my days. I blink looking up at the ceiling. Ever since Kai had informed me that father had escaped from Jonathan's dungeon, it seems like my memories are coming back in small pieces, of everything my father and Damian have ever done to me. I can feel the pain, the hurt in the memories. My hands trace the scars on my back and stomach, realizing where they have come from. I never realized just why I feared my father so much, but if the memories were any indication, he was a monster, an evil who needed to be stopped. The old Winter would have been afraid, would have stayed out of the way and tried to keep herself safe, but the new Winter wanted to be stronger, more courageous. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life in fear. I get up and wander to the mirror, looking at the back of myself, craning my head over my shoulder. There are all sorts of ugly scars, crisscrossing over each other, long white lines that snake around and cover me. They were put there by my own father and my own brother. I feel sickened. How could someone derive such joy from hurting someone? I think back to the rogue attack that took my mother from me. But I don't remember much. Everything's a blur. I remember being a little kid, out for a picnic with mother, sitting underneath a shady tree. This had been her idea. She had wanted to be outside and Damian and father had refused, wanting to stay indoors. Then she'd smelt something, stiffened and told me to run. But I didn't want to leave her behind. I knew something was dangerously wrong. It's rogues, Winter, you have to run, she shouted. But Mummy, I had cried out. No, you need to go, she growled and then shifted. I don't remember much more than that, other than running across the grounds screaming my head off, bursting inside the house while father and Damian looked at me. Mummy, Mummy, I sniveled, pointing. Father had gone as white as a sheet. Stay here, he demanded, telling the both of us to stay put. He went racing out. When father had finally come back, his shoulders were slumped and his head was down. He looked miserable, sad. I hadn't known what to do and had gone to hug him, but he pushed me back. "You," he hissed, and I stared at him, my lip quivering. "This is all your fault." "What's wrong, Daddy?" I'd asked. "She's dead," he'd growled. "Because of you being a little girl." I hadn't understood what he meant, but from that night onwards everything had changed and not for the better. "Winter," Kai said softly, distracting me from my thoughts. "Winter, are you all right?" he asks me, concerned. I try to give him a smile but fail miserably. "I'm remembering things that I would rather not," I say lightly. I'm trying to play it off like it's no big deal, but Kai sees right through me. "Oh, Winter," he murmurs, grabbing hold of me and embracing me tightly. "You don't always have to act so brave, you know. I know what your father did to you. I know what Damian did. I don't expect you to just get over that," he explained. I stifle my sobs, but suddenly the gates come crashing open and I'm crying, loudly, on his shoulders as he holds me. Why can't I just be the strong girl that I know I can be? Why does the past affect me so much? Kai just holds me, saying nothing, and I soak his shirt in my tears. "Winter, you went through something traumatic. It's all right to cry and to show weakness. I hate doing it though, Sabriel. Well, the past is, no kidding, but the future is what we make of it. This handsome man is most definitely a part of our future. I like the idea of looking forward instead of backwards. But I don't think I can avoid my memories coming back, Sabriel. I'm not asking you to. I think you need to accept the past so that you can move on to a better future." "Thanks, Sabriel, your advice is something I'm going to take into consideration." I heave a shuddering sigh and burrow into Kai's shoulder. God, he smells delicious, that scent of his is mesmerizing. My mouth is watering just smelling him so near. I can hear his heartbeat and it's so loud, thudding in his chest. Why is his heartbeat so loud? He pulls back from me. "I think you need to spend some time with Damian, if those memories are coming back to haunt you," he says, and I shake my head. "He hurt me, Kai," I say indignantly. "He didn't stop my father and he even joined in. What kind of older brother does that to his little sister?" I add, hurt. Kai sighs. "It's in the past though, Winter, and he did come good. Heck, he even traveled all this way to find you. I don't know if you remember how excited you were to see him, but you flung yourself right into his arms. But what if he hurts me again?" I ask in a small voice. My God, I sound like a small child, instead of a grown woman. So much for being brave and confident. Kai looks thoughtful. "I don't think he will, not intentionally. He really seems to love you, Winter, and your amnesia hasn't exactly been easy on him either." Ouch! That hurt. Big time. Who cares about Damian? Not when I was the victim. Maybe if you're there, I'll spend time with him. Or if Langdon is there, I say slowly, but I don't want to be left alone with him, not yet at any rate. When he shows me I can trust him, then I'll see him alone. That's fair enough, Kai agrees, giving me a long lingering kiss that has my knees knocking together. But how about you at least come downstairs? We can all sit together in my study or have lunch together in the dining room, he suggests. That sounds too much like being a family, which we are not. I think about the study idea, but I'm not ready to face Damian just yet. I need time to process everything. I need time to be alone and not be pressured to do something I don't want to do. Quite frankly, I just don't want to see my brother just yet. Maybe next time I answer quietly. I think I'm just going to spend time in here and read a book. He looks like he wants to protest but sees the look on my face and just nods. He quietly leaves. After he's gone, a thought comes to me and I sigh. I might have to see Damian after all. Because not once did my father ever tell me, or show me, where he buried our mother. Kai POV no, there hasn't been any sightings of him just yet. I snarl, holding the receiver tight to my ear, and imagining it to be Jonathan's neck as I squeeze it tightly. I've sent my best trackers out but too much time has passed to pick up his trail, Jonathan says on the other end of the line, not sounding remotely apologetic. Does he not realize the full magnitude of what he's done? How on edge both Winter and Damian have been since they have heard the news. Does he think this is a game? My anger rises with every word that he speaks. I've sent mine out, there's nothing there. Are you sure he's coming for them? Maybe he got smart and decided it wasn't worth dying over, I hiss. Maybe the man possessed some common sense. It was entirely possible. There's silence on the other end of the phone. I don't think he'll give up on them quite as easily as you seem to think he will, Jonathan says quietly. I glower at the telephone. This was all his fault to begin with. If it wasn't for him and his useless pack, this man would still be in prison. Well, a dungeon at any rate. Instead of heading here and traumatizing my poor Winter all over again. How's Winter and Damian going? He has the audacity to ask me. I grit my teeth. Damian is on edge, expecting to see his father at any moment. As for Winter, she's holed up in the bedroom and it's bringing back some nasty memories. She's about to have a nervous breakdown, I growl. I'm sorry for that. By the way, we forgot to tell you about the rogue. You won't understand, but Winter will. The rogue she saved showed us the way to your pack. That's all she needs to know. It might be enough to cheer her up some. I frown. What did he mean by the rogue she saved? No one saved a rogue. They would kill you as soon as look at you. Jonathan had to be playing a cruel trick. Was he messing with me? Yes, sure, I say dryly. He senses my unease about it. It's not a lie, talk to Damian about it. He'll tell you it's the truth, he defends hotly. I roll my eyes. Sure, I'll get right on that. He's silent for a moment while I fume on the other end, fighting back the urge to hurl the receiver at the closest wall and break it. Do you require some assistance? He asks, because I can come back and help until he's been captured again. He would. I don't want him anywhere near my pack, let alone near Winter making those googly eyes at her again. Besides, my pack was fine to deal with one lone shifter, for heaven's sake. It was laughable that he thought we might need his assistance. I'm one of the strongest packs in the country and one of the strongest alphas. In fact, now I was viewing it as an insult. Thank you for your concern, but that won't be necessary, I tell him with a sneer. Kai, Jonathan says lowly, and I have to strain to hear him take care of Winter, because if she so much as gets a tiny bit injured, he pauses. Then I'm coming for you. Take care of her or else, he snaps, slamming the phone down and hanging up on me. Did he really hang up on me? I stare at the phone incredulously, but the beeping sounds mean that Jonathan has indeed hung up. No one hangs up on me. I slam the receiver down several times, banging it hard, taking out all my anger and frustration on it. I keep banging it until there's a knock on the door. What I growl and Langdon comes walking in, without Damian, which is a surprise in itself. Not in a good mood, I see, Langdon says with a smile of amusement on his face as I scowl at him. What do you want, Langdon? I say a bit sulkily, almost pouting like a child. That Jonathan. He's put me in a foul temper. I feel like punching something, and if Langdon isn't careful, it's going to be him. I scowl at him. Langdon flops down in the chair. He looks tense, there's a crease across his forehead and his usual jovial smile feels forced. This isn't like him at all. Maybe I should be listening to what he needs as well. Evidently he was being as affected by the possible threat of the father like I was. After all, Damian was his son. No matter how strong and brave Damian comes across, even I know he must have been terrified to have a father like that as a child. Langdon puts his head in his hands, looking older than his 23 years. His brown hair is shaggy, tied back in a small ponytail. He doesn't look anything like the cool, confident, put-together man that I knew. Man, I hope this turns up soon, mutters Langdon. I don't know how much longer I can keep Damian calm. He's terrified. Kai. A young man, an adult male, is terrified of his father. What kind of monster would this father have to be, to cause that much of a reaction in his own son? I sigh. So Damian wasn't faring too well either. Langdon looks exhausted. He's not eating properly, he's not sleeping. When he is sleeping he has nightmares. It's all I can do to get him to hold it together. Then to top it off, Winter has stopped speaking to him, which has put him in a depressive mood. I don't know what else to do. I left him sleeping to come see you. If he knew I was gone. Langdon trailed off. I got the hint. Damian needed Langdon to be by his side. Winter's not faring much better, I admit, clogged in the throat. She's sleeping but not well, and I know she's having nightmares. All of this has started to bring her memories back. Her childhood trauma is all coming back to her, not to mention Damian's part in it. That's why she's not speaking to him. I can't force her to either. That has to be a decision she makes for herself. Langdon sighs. How is patrol going? I ask, leaning back against the chair. My temper has soothed itself somewhat and I no longer felt like punching the walls or poor Langdon. I've increased it, but there's been no sightings. Patrol is on the lookout and I even got several pack members hiding in the trees keeping a lookout over the forest. If this man comes, we will see him before he makes it onto the grounds. I harumph. At least we were well prepared. But when it came to helping our mates, both Langdon and I were feeling helpless. All you can do is be there for him, Langdon. I tell him I don't think Winter or Damian are going to rest easy until their father has been caught. Until then, we do our best to comfort them. Langdon grimaces but gives a small nod. Maybe Damian will join me at the training ring, he says quietly. It will give him a chance to vent out his anger and frustration and make him exhausted enough to get a proper sleep. I think that's a great idea, I tell him, with a small smile. I watch the poor man leave, his shoulders slumped, looking like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. I groan. Winter hasn't come downstairs yet again today. Which can only mean one thing. She's holed up in our room again. This doesn't bode well. It was like she was afraid, so afraid, she couldn't bear to leave the room. Doesn't she understand that I will protect her? That nothing is going to get past me and sink its claws into her? I walk upstairs and pause outside our bedroom. I can hear the sound of sobbing, crying, and it wrenches my heart. She sounds so broken, so upset. Should I really disturb her? But my hand knocks on the door anyway. If she tells me to leave, then I'll honor her wishes. But instead, to my shock, the bedroom door is wrenched open and she flings herself into my arms. My hands go around her automatically, even as she wraps her legs around me, and it feels like I'm carrying a koala. Her head rests on my shoulder and I can feel her tears beginning to soak my shirt. Her whole body is trembling as well. Winter, I say cautiously, rubbing her back as I sit on the bed. She refuses to look at me. Winter, honey, what's wrong? I ask, hearing her sniffle. Her small cries are painful to hear. I remembered, she whispers, I remember everything. Hallelujah. She finally got her memories back, just like the doctor had originally said she would. My arms tighten around her. I'm well aware of what painful memories she might have in regard to me and the complete I was to her originally. My father is a monster, she whispers, and so is my brother. Ouch. It didn't look like Winter was about to forgive Damian any time too soon. Still, I remember what Langdon said about Damian being completely miserable and decide to at least try, to make Winter see reason. Winter, your brother was just as afraid of your father as you were, I say, hearing her sobbing stop. He went along with your father, because he was afraid your father would hurt him if he didn't. That doesn't make it right, or any less wrong, but he did go good for you, didn't he? Start to care for you properly? He even traveled all the way here to save you from Thomas. She was quiet. Like she was digesting his words. Maybe he'd gotten through to her. She took long shuddering breaths. Encouraged, Kai continued to speak to her. Langdon says Damian isn't sleeping well. Is barely eating, and he's completely miserable because you've stopped talking to him. She finally pulled back and I could see her face. I hold in my grimace. She has dark circles under her eyes, red puffy eyes, her hair is matted and disheveled, and she's ashen, completely pale. Paler than I've ever seen her. Whatever she's been doing up here, it hasn't been to sleep. Is Damian really that upset? She asks, climbing off me and sitting on the bed, her arms folded across her chest. I give a small nod. To be honest, I think Langdon misses you as well, I say pointedly as she looks away from me for a moment, looking thoughtful. Kai, she says, it's just that the memories won't stop coming and I'm afraid. I'm afraid to close my eyes in case it's another nightmare. I've had so many nightmares and they all seem to be so real, she whispers, her body shuddering. My God, I hadn't realized just how badly she was being affected by all this. No wonder Langdon looks so miserable and exhausted. He was keeping as close to his mate as possible, whereas I have been doing all my work and leaving Winter to hole up in the room by herself. What if I stay with you while you sleep? I suggest quietly. She stares at me for a moment, fidgeting with her hands. Then a look of relief covers her face. You would stay with me? She asks uncertainly. Yes, I say, getting up off the bed and pulling everything off it, pulling the bed covers back. She gets in slowly, lying down on the pillows, her face staring at me as I sit beside the bed. I pull the covers back over her and kiss her forehead. I frown. She feels warm but doesn't seem to be too fazed by it. Her eyelids slowly flutter closed as I watch over her intently. Slowly her breathing evens and I push her hair away from her face. There's a small smile on her face and she looks a lot more serene. I settle against the bed. I will stay here as long as she needs me until she wakes up on her own. I hadn't realized how afraid she was. I need to be a better mate. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.